Inside each of us, there's a silent battle between instinct and reason, between what we want and what we truly need, between darkness and light. The Sopranos isn't just a show about the mafia. It's a bitter symphony of life, where power, family, guilt, and faith tear at each other in quiet, violent ways. These 20 lessons from the series don't just help us understand Tony Soprano. They hold up a mirror to see our own weaknesses, our selfishness, our hunger to be loved, and the moments when we, too, lose our way. If you're searching for something, to reflect on yourself, to change how you live, to explore the meaning of freedom, forgiveness, and loneliness, then sit down, take a slow breath, and step into this journey. 20 lessons drawn not just from fiction, but from life itself. Lesson number 1. Family isn't perfect, but it's the only thing left when everything else falls apart. When the world around us spins into chaos, when friends walk away, when careers collapse, and reputations fall apart, there's only one place left to return to. It's not heaven. It's not a dream. It's family. Messy, imperfect, and sometimes painful. Tony Soprano is a mafia boss, a man who orders killings without blinking an eye. But he's shaken when his daughter says, "You were never really there for me, Dad." Throughout 6 seasons, no matter how many mistakes he makes, no matter how distant his wife and kids become, Tony always comes home. Not because he's a good man, but because deep down, he knows. Without family, he has nothing. It doesn't matter who we are, a success or a failure. Family is where the rawest truths about ourselves live. And if we don't learn to value that, we might lose it forever. Family doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be there when you fall apart. The real question is, when was the last time you truly came home, looked them in the eyes, and said, "Thank you for always being there"? Family isn't perfect, but when everything else falls apart, it might be the only thing left. Lesson number 2. We wear masks to survive, but the longer we wear them, the easier it is to forget who we really are. Have you ever looked in the mirror and seen a stranger? Not because you've changed, but because you've been wearing that mask for too long. The mask of strength, the mask of being agreeable, the mask of success. We put them on to fit in, to protect ourselves, to make it through the day. But every time we choose the mask over honesty, we drift a little further from who we really are. Until one day, you can't tell where the mask ends and where you begin. The question is, are you brave enough to take it off? Tony Soprano was a walking contradiction. A mafia boss, giving orders like a god, yet hiding his tears behind the door of his therapist's office. In today's world, we're not that different from Tony. We live double lives. Out there, we're the boss, the loving husband, the strong one. But when we're alone, we're afraid, we're anxious, we're full of conflict. Why don't we dare to live honestly? Because we're scared. Scared of being judged. Scared of losing our image. Scared to admit we're vulnerable. So we wear a mask to protect ourselves. But over time, that very mask becomes the thing that kills who we really are inside. Think about a boss you know, always cold, always strict. But have you ever seen them stay up all night worrying about their team? Are you sure they're not lonely, not depressed? According to the American Psychological Association, over 70% of successful people hide negative emotions just to maintain a professional image. But that image comes at a cost. Higher risk of depression, anxiety, and emotional disconnection. We're taught to be strong, but no one ever teaches us how to be gently vulnerable, how to be soft without breaking, how to hurt and still be whole. And that's why Tony Soprano, with all his wealth, power, and status, was still just a man, trapped inside the armor he built to survive. Are you wearing a mask just to survive? If you are, then please don't forget this. Don't wear it for too long, because one day you might not be able to take it off. And the real you, flawed, cracked, imperfect, still deserves to live, to be loved, to be accepted. Lesson number 2. The longer we wear the mask, the more we forget who we really are. You know, sometimes I go about in the world and I think, why am I doing this? Lesson number 3. Family is the most sacred place, but also the one that hurts us the most. Family. Those two words sound so warm, but it's also the place where we're sometimes misunderstood, where we're hurt the most. In The Sopranos, Tony can control an entire criminal empire, but he's powerless when it comes to his own family. Family is the soil of love, but it's also where our weaknesses and imperfections are exposed the most. Tony always strives to be the ideal husband and father, but he's also quick-tempered, selfish, and unable to express his emotions. Carmela loves him, yet hates him for the sins he's committed, but she can't leave. And Tony's children, they're a mirror reflecting his own life, fractured, lost, and lonely in a house that seems to have everything. One of the painful truths is, family doesn't guarantee understanding. Many people live in a complete family, but they don't truly connect. We often hurt our loved ones because we assume they will always forgive us. According to the Harvard study of adult development, over 40% of adults say the deepest pain in their lives came from family. No one can hurt you as deeply as those you love the most. So what should we do? It's not about avoiding or cutting ties, but rather learning to communicate sincerely instead of silently enduring, learning to listen to our loved ones instead of criticizing them, and most importantly, forgiving because none of us are perfect. Family, if not nurtured daily, will wither like a tree without water. In all the roles we play in life, the role of a parent, a child, is the hardest because there's no script. And if you could start over, let your family be not just a place to live, but a place to heal. Lesson number 3, family, the place most vulnerable, yet the place most in need of healing. I did everything for my family, and now I'm alone. Lesson number 4, modern humans are suffering from an invisible disease, spiritual emptiness. Have you ever felt tired for no reason? Felt like you have everything, but still can't find happiness? Tony Soprano is a mafia boss with money and power, but he goes to see a therapist, only to ask, "Why do I always feel empty inside?" The Sopranos isn't just a show about the mafia. It's the first show to boldly say, when people climb to the peak of material success, they begin to fall into the abyss of the mind. Tony has it all: beautiful cars, a mansion, loyal followers, absolute power. But he suffers from insomnia, panic, and depression. He fears loneliness. He fears losing control. He no longer knows why he's even alive. Tony's story is actually a reflection of many people in the modern world, working tirelessly all week but never feeling happy, having money but never feeling secure, interacting with hundreds of people every day, yet still feeling alone. Psychology today calls this spiritual emptiness syndrome. It's not because of a lack of money. It's not because of a lack of love. It's because we gradually forget to ask ourselves, what gives our life meaning? Sometimes all we really need is not to increase our income, but to dare to sit with ourselves and ask one simple question: am I living or just existing? Lesson number 4, emptiness is the disease of our time, and healing starts with reconnecting with ourselves. Lesson number 5, placing your trust in the wrong person. Sometimes you pay the price with your own life. In the world of The Sopranos, betrayal is not just an act, it's the essence of human nature. The people who are drinking and laughing with you today might be the ones pulling the trigger tomorrow. But don't forget, this is happening in real life, every day. One of the most painful moments in The Sopranos is not the bloodshed. It's when Tony discovers that his closest friend, Big Pussy, has been betraying him all along. They used to share meals, smoke cigars together, and witness each other weather countless storms. But in the end, it's just a gunshot and silence. No words spoken, no pleas, only the look of disappointment, pain, and the end. Tony is not just a mob boss. He is someone who places deep trust in brotherhood, in what's called mafia honor. But that's an illusion. In a world where self-interest is the rule of the game, trust is a double-edged sword. And if you place it in the wrong hands, you'll get stabbed in the back, sooner or later. In today's world, this may not happen with blood, but through lies, rumors, and betrayal. It could be a friend you once shared everything with, but they sell you out for a promotion. It could be a business partner, but they break commitments for profit. The more trust you give, the more vulnerable you become. And that's why trust should not be given freely. It must be tested by time, actions, and even hurt. Lesson number 5. Placing trust in the wrong person. Sometimes the cost is an irreparable betrayal. I love that guy. I would have taken a bullet for him. Lesson number 6. The most powerful person is not the one in control, but the one who manipulates the minds of others. Who do you think is the strongest person in The Sopranos? Is it Tony, the infamous mob boss? Or Dr. Melfi, the only woman who can make Tony sit still and listen? The truth is, the person who can manipulate the minds of others is the one who truly holds the power. Dr. Melfi has no mafia, no guns, no money to bribe, but she has something no one in the mafia world has: the ability to navigate psychology. Tony, who seems to control everything, is subdued in the White Room, where no one carries guns, only cold analysis and silence. And that's the true pinnacle of power. No need to give orders. No need to threaten. Just ask the right question at the right moment, and the person across from you will act according to your will. In modern society, psychological manipulation isn't found in the mafia. It's in meetings, in text messages, in ghosting, in fake compliments. The wisest people don't speak loudly. They understand what you want to hear, trigger the weaknesses in your subconscious, and let you willingly go in the direction they've set. Steve Jobs never created the iPhone alone, but he knew how to inspire, stir emotions, and make the whole team believe they could change the world. Or in a group of friends, there's always someone who never steps up, but still gets everyone to follow their ideas without having to speak directly. That's the soft power, which Tony gradually learned from Melfi. Lesson number 6. The most powerful person isn't the one who gives orders. It's the one who makes others believe the choice was theirs all along. Lesson number 7. Vulnerability and pain, the hidden cost of power. Tony Soprano, a ruthless mafia boss, feared by many, capable of ordering a hit with just a glance. And yet, that same man lies on a therapist's couch every week, talking about dreams, emptiness, and the fear of being abandoned. The Sopranos teaches us one powerful truth: power always comes with pain. We often think the strongest people are the ones who fear nothing, but Tony is the perfect example of the opposite. The most powerful man is often the most afraid. Tony didn't fear his enemies. He feared losing control. He wasn't afraid of the FBI. He was terrified of losing his daughter's love. The higher he climbed, the fewer people were truly honest with him. The more power he held, the more he had to suppress his emotions. And slowly, that's what killed his soul. In today's world, there are many modern-day Tony Sopranos. Fathers, bosses, men who carry the weight of the world and silently collapse under it. Because they believe, I have to be strong. I'm not allowed to be weak. But the truth is, acknowledging your pain, that is the highest form of courage. Billionaire Howard Schultz, CEO of Starbucks, once opened up about his abusive father and the pain of leadership. I used to think being a CEO meant always being right. But no, sometimes the strongest thing you can do is say, I need help. Or take Robin Williams, the comedian who made millions laugh, yet battled deep depression behind the scenes. Smiling isn't always strength. Sometimes it's just how we hide the pain. Lesson number 7. True strength isn't about never feeling pain. It's about having the courage to face your wounds. Lesson number 8. Family, where love begins and where the deepest wounds are often born. Tony Soprano wasn't an orphan. He grew up in a traditional Italian family, full of voices, full of pride, and full of quiet, lingering pain. A cold, controlling mother who constantly sowed seeds of doubt. An absent father, and even when he was around, he only taught Tony one thing: to survive, never let anyone see you weak. And so, Tony carried all those broken pieces into his own family. The Sopranos isn't just a show about the mafia. It's a story about family, about how wounds are passed down, not through blood, but through silence, neglect, and emotional distance. Family is the first place that teaches us how to love, or how to run away. Tony loves his children, loves his wife, but doesn't know how to show it. Because he never learned that from his parents. His mother's coldness made Tony see emotions as weakness. His father's absence made him misinterpret responsibility. And what goes unhealed repeats itself. Carmela, Tony's wife, loves him but lives in fear. AJ, his son, doesn't respect him because all he sees is an angry man who won't listen. A family doesn't fall apart because of war, but because of silence that lasts too long. Tony has it all: money, power, status, but he doesn't have a family where he truly feels loved. How many of us grew up in a family where love was only shown through money, instead of hugging each other when we were sad? How many people, now parents themselves, still don't know how to raise their children because they were never taught? Family is where life begins, but it's also the first place wounds are created if healing doesn't happen. And The Sopranos makes us realize, you can't build a happy family by hiding wounds that were never spoken about. Look at Brad Pitt, who once shared that he was a victim of a strict father who didn't know how to express love. When he became a father, he had to relearn everything: how to sit down and talk with his kids, how to listen instead of just giving orders. And as the famous psychologist Gabor Mate said, parents don't always hurt their children with physical punishment. They do it when they don't listen. The lesson here? To heal a family, sometimes you have to start with the generation that's been most hurt. Lesson number 8. Family is the foundation. Don't let it crack under the weight of silence and unspoken wounds. Lesson number 9. Faith, religion, and spiritual emptiness, when the soul cannot find a place to rest. Tony Soprano, a mafia boss willing to kill, cheat, and betray, but still kneels to pray. He goes to church, talks to the priest, and sends his kids to religious school. But when asked, "Do you believe in God?" Tony remains silent. This is the paradox: a person who is thirsty, but too afraid to drink. A broken soul, lost between morality, sin, and salvation that they don't even believe in. The Sopranos highlights a painful paradox of the modern age. The more people develop, the more empty they feel. Tony and many characters in the show carry a form of surface-level belief. They go to church out of habit, pray when they're scared, use religion to cover up their sins. But inside, they don't truly have faith. They don't believe in justice after death. They don't believe in forgiveness. They don't believe their souls can be saved. They are like many people today, rich, powerful, educated, but without a real spiritual foundation. And because of that, when pain strikes, they don't know where to turn. Tony goes to therapy, but doesn't speak the truth. Carmela prays, but lives in lies. AJ is depressed because he sees life as meaningless. Have you ever met people who live in luxury but always feel empty? They do charity work, read moral books, share inspiring quotes, but when night falls, they don't know who they are, where they're going, or why they even exist. The Sopranos doesn't answer these questions, but the show forces us to face them. If we don't have a solid inner axis, a belief, a core value, we will lose our way in our own lives. Death isn't as scary as living a whole life without knowing what you're living for. Actor Jim Carrey once said, "I wish everyone could become as rich and famous as I am, so they could realize it doesn't make you feel complete." Or as famous psychologist Jordan Peterson asserts, when people lose religion, they don't become atheists. They replace it with addiction, nihilism, and avoidance. And you can clearly see this in Tony. He doesn't believe in God, nor does he believe in himself. Lesson number 9. Faith is not just religion. It is the ultimate refuge of the soul. Losing faith means losing your way in your own mind. Lesson number 10. The cost of power, trading your soul for the throne. Are you willing to sacrifice something to gain power? Money, love, conscience, or your very soul? Tony Soprano has it all: power, wealth, beautiful women, loyal followers. But do you know what he gave up? A shattered mind, a broken family, a heart that no longer knows love. This is not just a mafia story. This is the story of real people quietly losing themselves while climbing to the top. Look closely at the price Tony has to pay. Power is not a reward, it is a debt. Every time Tony rises a level in the underworld, he loses a relationship. Every time he protects his position, he sacrifices a piece of himself. When he kills his best friend, he loses trust. When he casts aside family, he loses emotion. When he constantly doubts, he loses peace of mind. The pinnacle of power turns out to be a very lonely place. And this isn't just about Tony. In today's society, how many people choose the lone wolf way to rise? How many abandon friends, lovers, values, in exchange for a position of power? But in the end, power is just a throne, sitting on a pile of ruins. What do you think is scarier? Not having power, or gaining power but losing all your humanity? Drop a comment below. Have you ever sacrificed something to achieve a goal? And do you think it was worth it? Look at famous people, politicians, billionaires, business moguls. How many have succeeded, only to fall into loneliness, depression, addiction, or betrayal by those closest to them? Steve Jobs was pushed out by Apple. Elon Musk lost his wife, lost his children on his journey to become a tech king. Or closer to home, in ordinary companies, how many bosses are too afraid to take time off because they fear their employees will surpass them? Power, when not accompanied by love and ethics, always comes with a price. Lesson number 10. Power can take you to great heights, but if you can't keep your heart, the peak is just a disguised abyss. Lesson number 11. Regret and the things that can't be undone. If you could go back in time and change just one thing, what would you choose? We've all made mistakes, but some mistakes, no matter how much of the world you have, you can't fix. TonySoprano had a chance too, but he didn't know that it would be his last. In this episode, we dive into a very raw corner of the human heart, regret, and the cost of not daring to change at the right moment. Tony isn't entirely a bad person. He loves his family, misses his mother, cares for his children, and longs to be recognized. But he never knows how to say, "I'm sorry," never truly takes responsibility, and never reconciles while there's still time. When Carmela sheds tears, he stays silent. When AJ turns to suicide, he blames society. When loved ones die, he chooses to suppress and keep going with cruelty. Regret doesn't come immediately. It creeps in slowly. Just when you think you've gotten used to it, it strikes your heart. And that's the hardest part. It's not losing someone. It's losing them before you've had a chance to say you're sorry. Let me ask you honestly, how long has it been since you called your parents just to ask, "Are you doing well today?" How many times have you been angry with a loved one over a careless word and then stayed silent forever? Is there a friend you once valued, but now you can't even bear to look them in the eye? Real life isn't like a movie. There's no replay button. When that person is gone, letters won't reach them. When the chance to make things right has passed, even if you kneel, there's no one left to hear. Tony is a mirror for us to learn how not to be like him. Lesson number 11. Don't wait until you have to regret to learn how to forgive and make things right. Forgiveness is a gift for others, but sometimes it's the only way to save yourself. Call the friend you once loved, message the one you've grown distant from. Say you're sorry while there's still time. Lesson number 12. Fleeting joy and lasting emptiness. We spend money on things we don't need, to impress people who don't care, and immerse ourselves in fleeting pleasures, just to escape the feeling of emptiness. In The Sopranos, there's no shortage of alcohol, beautiful women, power, and parties. But behind all of that are suffocating silences, hollow gazes, and hearts with no anchor. This isn't just a lesson, it's a warning, because it's more like us than we realize. Tony thought money would make him happy. Christopher thought fame would heal his pain. Paulie believed no one needed anyone, until he was left alone. All of them ran from loneliness with material possessions, entertainment, lust, alcohol, and drugs. But none of that ever touched their hearts. That emptiness is the gap between the life you're living and the life you truly need. They could control the whole neighborhood, but they couldn't control the inner chaos within themselves. Have you ever laughed and posted a story at a bar, but felt emptier inside? How many times have you bought something just to feel that joy when unboxing, only to leave it aside? We're taught that we have to be happy, have more, succeed. But no one teaches us how to face emptiness. That's why people fall into depression even when they have everything. And it's also why someone like Tony who has it all, still wants to die. Lesson number 12. Joy comes and goes. Connection is what stays. Don't confuse entertainment with happiness. Don't confuse possession with satisfaction. Spend time on what truly matters, instead of just chasing temporary feelings. When was the last time you truly felt joy? Share what makes you feel whole, even if it's small. Maybe someone else needs that too. Lesson number 13. Violence doesn't erase fear, it only hides it. When we're young, we punch our fears. As we grow older, we hide them behind our jobs. And when we're old, we're left with nothing but ourselves and the things we never dared to face. In The Sopranos, every bullet doesn't just kill someone. It's a form of escape. Escape from guilt, escape from pain, and escape from oneself. But fear doesn't die. It just changes its shape. In psychology, violence is often just a mask for deeper fears. The fear of getting hurt, the fear of losing control, the fear of being seen as weak. Tony beat people because he was afraid of losing respect. Christopher killed his friend because he feared betrayal. But afterward, they only became more lonely, more tormented, and more dependent on alcohol and drugs to cope. The question is, did violence make them stronger? Or did it just stop them from crying, from asking for help, from showing vulnerability, until it was too late? Look at the men who've made it halfway through life. Some of them were once fierce, doing what they thought was the right thing. But now, they just sit quietly, looking back, and wishing they had chosen forgiveness instead. Because in the end, what keeps them up at night isn't their enemies, it's themselves. Lesson number 13. Fear can't be silenced with fists. It needs to be heard. Being strong isn't about yelling louder or striking harder. True strength is having the courage to face your pain and choosing not to pass that pain on to others. What do you usually do when you're scared? If you've ever chosen anger or coldness and later regretted it, you're not alone. Share what you've learned about yourself. Someone out there might need to hear it. Lesson number 14. Forgiveness and why it's so damn hard. Some wounds never heal, simply because we never learned how to let go. Once, in an old forest, there was a gray wolf with a sharp thorn stuck in its paw. It howled in pain, but refused to let anyone near, not even the kind animals who wanted to help. "Don't touch me. You just want to make me weak so you can kill me," the wolf growled. As the years passed, the thorn wasn't removed. It only pushed deeper into the bone. The wolf kept living, but it grew angry, isolated, and spent every night gnawing on its own pain. One day, exhausted, it collapsed by a stream. A small fawn gently approached and whispered, "You're not in pain because of the thorn. You're in pain because you won't let anyone touch it." For the first time in its life, the wolf cried. But by then, it was too late to walk without a limp. Just like the wolf, we often guard our pain as if it's a badge of honor. But the truth is, only when we dare to forgive can we begin to heal. Forgiveness isn't a gift to the one who hurt us. It's the only way to free ourselves from the thorn we've held on to for too long. In The Sopranos, lifelong grudges, the pain of betrayal, humiliation, abandonment, are all buried beneath fake hugs, awkward family dinners, where they erupt in cold-blooded payback. Forgiveness, when it happens, is always tangled with suspicion, wounds that never healed, and egos screaming silently inside every character. In The Sopranos, lifelong grudges, the pain of betrayal, humiliation, abandonment, are all buried beneath fake hugs, awkward family dinners, where they erupt in cold-blooded payback. Forgiveness, when it happens, is always tangled with suspicion, wounds that never healed, and egos screaming silently inside every character. Tony was once prompted by Dr. Melfi to forgive his mother, the one who shattered his childhood with cold, tyrannical control. But Tony screamed, "I can't forgive her. She ruined my life." That scene reflects a painful truth. Forgiveness is not natural. It's an act of great courage, one that, at times, we're unwilling to take. Why is forgiveness so difficult? Because the ego refuses to be seen as weak. Because the person who hurt us never apologizes and even continues to live happily. Because we feel that by forgiving, the pain will be made meaningless. But it's precisely because we don't forgive that we remain haunted by the past. The longer we hold on, the more control that pain has over our minds. Have you ever held on to anger for 5 years, 10 years? And then, when you look back, the person who caused you pain has moved on with their life, while you're still there, with a broken heart. Forgiveness isn't for them. It's for you, so you're no longer stuck in yesterday. Forgiveness doesn't erase the memories, but it erases the power those memories have over your life. It's not surrender, but a declaration of freedom. And that's something Tony, and many of us, might spend a lifetime trying to understand. Lesson number 15, money can't buy peace of mind. When we have everything, but can't sleep peacefully at night, then we truly have nothing. In a haunting scene from The Sopranos, Tony lies in his expensive bed in a luxurious house. He has money, power, and loyal followers. But his eyes, wide open in the dark, are filled with anxiety. At that moment, we don't see a powerful mafia boss. We only see a man full of worry, confusion, and loneliness. The Sopranos does not repeat the cliché message that money can't buy happiness in a preachy way. It exposes a harsh truth. The more we have, the more we become bound by what we own. Money brings power, but it also brings doubt, jealousy, and infighting. Money can buy loyalty, but it can't buy true trust. And most importantly, money cannot buy peace of mind. Tony may command hundreds of people, but he cannot control his own emotions. He frequently has to go to therapy, something very rare for a mafia boss, because deep down, he is always afraid of losing himself. How many people out there believe that as long as they have enough money, all their problems will disappear? But then when they achieve that, they start worrying about losing it, keeping it, or being betrayed because of it. Money can solve many things, but it can't solve the anxiety within you. The only thing that can do that is inner peace, a sense of fulfillment from within. How many people out there believe that as long as they have enough money, all their problems will disappear? But then when they achieve that, they start worrying about losing it, keeping it, or being betrayed because of it. Money can solve many things, but it can't solve the anxiety within you. The only thing that can do that is inner peace, a sense of fulfillment from within. Lesson number 16. Everything has its price. You can choose anything in life, but don't forget, everything has its price. One time, Tony was having dinner with Carmela in the kitchen. The meal was delicious, the wine expensive, and the atmosphere seemed peaceful. But then Carmela gently, yet bitterly, said, "Do you think we can have it all without paying the price?" Tony fell silent. His gaze drifted into the distance, perhaps thinking of the list of those who had died, the people who had left, and parts of himself that were forever lost. The Sopranos portrays an eternal law of life. No matter what you choose, you must sacrifice something else. Tony chose power, and he lost peace, true love, and the safety of his family. Carmela chose money and comfort, but in return, she gained loneliness, doubt, and a life of self-deception. No one can have everything. The price is not always money. It could be the time you can never get back, the family bonds you've neglected, the trust that has been shattered, or your very freedom of the soul. Those who choose to dedicate themselves fully to work may sacrifice their health and time with family. Those who choose to live recklessly will soon pay the price with irreversible consequences. Those who decide to deceive in order to gain something quickly will gradually lose respect, honor, and peace of mind. The world always balances things in its own way. And if the price hasn't come yet, it might just be waiting for the right moment to appear. There is no such thing as a free meal. There is no choice that comes without a price. The question is not, should I pay the price or not? But rather, is what you gain worth what you lose? Lesson number 17. You can't run away from yourself. There's one thing you can't run from, no matter how powerful, how rich you are: yourself. In The Sopranos, Tony Soprano is a man torn between two worlds. On one side, a ruthless crime boss. On the other, a father and husband trying to be a decent man. But the harder he tries to keep those lives apart, the more he realizes there's nowhere to hide. You can cover yourself in fine suits, power, parties, even a loaded gun. But when the night comes, in a quiet room, with panic clawing at your chest, it's just you and your reflection. No masks, just the truth, and all the scars that never healed. All the wounds that never healed. All the mistakes you never faced. All the times you said, "I'm fine," when your heart was falling apart. They don't just disappear. They stay buried, quietly waiting for the moment you're too tired to fight them off. Tony didn't go see Dr. Melfi just because of panic attacks. Deep down, he knew, if he didn't face himself, he'd lose whatever was left of him. And it's the same for us. You can change your job, your city, your circle of friends. But if you don't change what's inside, you're just carrying an old version of yourself into a new place. And soon enough, the same cycle begins again. Take a moment. Look at yourself with honesty, courage, and kindness. That's not weakness. That's the bravest journey a person can take. Because once you stop running from who you are, that's when real life begins. No matter how powerful, respected, or carefully hidden you are, your true self will always be there. Running from who you are doesn't bring freedom. It only feeds the conflict within, the confusion, the quiet chaos, the slow unraveling. Throughout The Sopranos, Tony is a man of constant contradiction. On the outside, a feared mob boss, ruling with an iron fist. On the inside, a deeply unstable man, haunted, fearful, and so fragile he can't control his panic attacks. Tony chooses to see Dr. Melfi. It seems like a small act, but in truth, it's the clearest sign that he can no longer run from himself. No one forces him. There's no court order, no legal threat. He goes because of the pain that has no name, the fear of himself, of his memories, of his past, and of the mistakes he can no longer ignore. When we don't dare to look within, at our wounds, our anger, our mistakes and flaws, we begin to build a false shell, living through a version of ourselves that isn't real. But the more we run, the deeper the crisis grows. Tony spirals into violence, not for power, but because it's the only way he knows to momentarily forget the helplessness inside. Just like many people in real life, they throw themselves into work, into money, into achievements, not out of ambition, but because it's easier than facing the truth of who they are. A man, after years of career success, suddenly falls into depression. No one understands why, but deep down, he's never forgiven himself for abandoning his sick father years ago in pursuit of ambition. A mother, constantly angry and controlling toward her children, not because she lacks love, but because deep inside, she carries the guilt of an abortion in her youth, something she's never admitted, not even to herself. No one can truly escape the past unless they have the courage to face it. Don't be afraid to look within, whether it's pain, mistakes, or the ugliest parts of yourself. It's only when we have the courage to face them that we begin to heal and become our truest selves. Lesson number 18. The truth won't set you free if you don't dare to face it. We often believe that the truth will set you free, but it won't. Not unless you have the courage to face it and accept it. Without that courage, the truth becomes a shadow, heavy, haunting, and unrelenting. It doesn't free you. It makes you run, it makes you angry, and sometimes it quietly destroys you from within. In The Sopranos, there's no shortage of truths laid bare about betrayal, a violent past, and disturbing realities in both the family and society. But Tony Soprano and those around him rarely want to truly face them. Carmela, Tony's wife, knows her husband is a killer, knows about his relationships with other women, but she chooses to live in denial, compromising with the truth to maintain the safety of her life, for herself and for the family. And Tony, even though he seeks therapy, avoids the deepest truths about himself. He doesn't want to admit that he could be wrong, that he might need to change, that he is small and vulnerable. The result? They are trapped in the world they've built, an invisible prison where the truth is clear, but no one dares to face it. Many people say they want to know the truth, but when confronted with it, they choose to turn away. A husband discovers that his wife no longer loves him, but instead of accepting it and finding a way to heal, he becomes controlling, jealous, and tries to deny the obvious. A mother knows she was wrong to impose her dreams on her child, but instead of apologizing, she continues to blame society, the times, to avoid taking responsibility. The truth, if not accepted with courage, only causes us pain and adds weight to our burden. Many people suffer from mental health issues but refuse to seek help because they fear having to accept that they aren't okay. A society can collapse from within if people know the truth but are too afraid to speak it, fearing the loss of power, punishment, or isolation. We think hiding the truth is the way to live peacefully, but the truth, even if suppressed, remains there, like a tumor in the mind. It makes you tired, irritable, sleepless, until one day you realize it is the truth that hasn't been acknowledged that is imprisoning you, not anyone else. 18.6. If you truly want to set yourself free, have the courage to face the truth, even if it causes you pain. Because only when you dare to look, accept, and learn from it will you truly be free. Lesson number 19. We can't control the outcome. We can only control our choices. I did the right thing. I sacrificed. I chose the best I could, but everything still collapsed. Have you ever felt this way? You chose kindness, chose patience, chose love, but the other person still betrayed you. The work still fell apart. Life still didn't go the way you hoped. And you ask yourself, then what's the point of trying? In The Sopranos, we see this clearly. Tony is a man who repeatedly chooses to act for his family, for the organization, for loyalty. But what's the result? The closest people turn their backs. The ones he loves fall into a cycle of violence. The family, the very thing he wanted to protect the most, becomes distorted because of the path he chose. Tony couldn't control the outcome, but every choice he made led him there. We are taught that, do the right thing, and then good things will come. But life doesn't work like a logical machine. You can work hard your whole life and still not be rich. You can be kind to the end and still be betrayed. You can love someone with all your heart and they will still leave. Because life doesn't guarantee a reward for your choices. Life only responds with reality. The only thing you truly control is how you choose. J.K. Rowling, before achieving success with Harry Potter, was rejected by over 12 publishers. She didn't know what the outcome would be, but she just kept choosing to write, every day. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. He didn't know if justice would come, but he chose not to hate. He chose hope. A son decides to forgive his father, who had abandoned the family. He doesn't expect the father-son relationship to be revived, but he chooses to forgive in order to free himself. We live in a chaotic world, where results don't always reflect the effort. But what defines you is not the result. It's how you chose to act when everything was beyond your control. When you can't control life's events, control how you react. Keep choosing what's right, because it's what keeps you whole in an uncertain world. Lesson number 20. The price of awakening. Awakening is not a light shining upon the world. Awakening is when you realize how long you've been living in the dark. Many people talk about enlightenment, awakening, spiritual growth, but few ever mention the price of it. No one prepares you for this. Awakening always comes with a cost. Throughout The Sopranos, there are moments when Tony almost wakes up to who he is, to his family, to his past, to the deep wounds he carries. But every time he gets close to awakening, he pulls back. Why? Because awakening doesn't always feel good. It often hurts more. When he realizes he no longer has a real connection with his wife and kids, it isn't freeing, it's shattering. When he begins to see how much of his pain comes from his mother's shadow, he doesn't feel empowered. He feels hollow and afraid. When you truly wake up, you begin to see clearly. The toxic relationships you once called family, the beliefs you held as truth, were actually programming. The things you chased for years never truly made you happy. Awakening strips you bare. It takes away the comfort of blissful ignorance and replaces it with raw, unfiltered truth. And the truth is often anything but comfortable. Loneliness, loss, identity crisis. When you begin to awaken, you start seeing the world differently. You can no longer blend into shallow conversations or find joy in meaningless distractions. You pull away, not because you're arrogant, but because you're hurting. Loneliness. You feel distant, not just from others, but from who you used to be. You don't fit in anymore, and it aches. Loss. Many relationships can't survive your transformation. Loved ones might say, "You've changed. You're not the same person anymore." Identity crisis. You begin to wonder, who am I? What have I been living for? And worse, if everything I used to believe was a lie, what do I have left? You can spend your whole life inside a dream and call it peace. But one day, you open your eyes and realize no one but you has been keeping you chained. Awakening strips away the mask, but in doing so, it gives you something far more precious. True freedom. No one said awakening would be easy. It's a second birth, but without the cries, without a mother to hold you. There's only you, and you alone, stepping out of the darkness. The Sopranos isn't just a show, it's a mirror. These 20 lessons don't tell you how to live. They quietly whisper, take a look within. When you stop trying to please the world, when you drop the roles you think you have to play, that's when freedom begins. Freedom isn't about having more. It's about letting go of what you're not. And if there's one thing you take from all this, let it be, I am enough, even when I'm not performing. Thank you for being here. If this spoke to you, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Let's keep walking this path of awakening together.